It wasn't always pretty, but what season opener is? The Eagles managed to pull out a win today, thank God. So we're able to talk about more positives than negatives on this rainy Sunday in Philadelphia. Eagles get the win in Detroit 38-35. I'm Jessica Taylor here for the BGN Instant Reaction Show. I'm here today with Victor Williams and Rachel as always. And thank God we're able to break down a win. Like I said, there were some hiccups along the way, but ultimately the offense having more skill on the Eagles side of the ball is what gave them the edge, gave them the advantage. The defense definitely made a few crucial plays when they needed to, but ultimately 100% the offense that gave the Eagles the win. So, Victor, it got, a little too close for comfort there at the end, in terms of, the score, obviously, but, even it's too close for comfort as, a QB sneak on 4th and 1 to have to seal the deal for the Birds. What are your how do you feel? What is your emotion walking away from that game? Because everyone was so excited going into this week for season opener. Birds are back, all the moves in the off season, and it got a little, Eagles. It got a little too Eagles for everyone's liking, I think.
Yeah, it got uncomfortable. I didn't anticipate being uncomfortable during
Right.
this game because after the first drive, it was 75 yards right down the field, and we
Yeah.
got torn up. And my first mind was like, okay, same old Gannon. Like I thought the new personnel would kind of help him, and I
Right.
understand it's the first series, and you want to temper your expectations and let them kind of find their groove, and that did happen for the most part. But that first drive didn't have me didn't have me too encouraged. And then
No.
once the pick six happened, right, and I think the 31-14 lead
Yeah.
happened at that point, and I was like, all right, we're just gonna step on their throats. That's gonna be the end of this.
Right.
And credit to the Lions for not giving up and not going down. They went down swinging. They sure did go
They
down
did.
swinging.
And
Eh,
that's sort of how their season went last year, right? Like that's the Lions team we saw. They lost a lot of respectable games. I know they were 3-13-1. I know their first moral victory, I guess, was a tie with the Pittsburgh Steelers, but I mean, they weren't. I know the Eagles went in there, and the Eagles had to make a statement at that point. That was a crucial cross point, in their season as it was. But they didn't they didn't just get their ass beat every week. Like they lost a lot of respectable games,
yeah.
similar to this
Wasn't
kind of game.
the Justin Tucker kick? Wasn't that the Lions on the Lions
Yeah,
last year? The
yeah,
60 whatever the record breaking kick was. Yeah, tough
yeah.
breaks.
Another record breaking kick by the opera singer. But that's exactly it. Like it was, but I think it was a respectable game, of course, on the Lions end. But there were still, I think in terms of the Eagles defense, they underestimated what the Lions were going to bring them a little bit.
Yeah, I certainly did personally. So,
I mean, I did
but
too.
but Jess, if I told you, say I told you yesterday we were talking, and I was like, the Eagles are going to give up nearly 400 yards to the Lions. You would assume this would be a loss.
Yeah. I mean, it's not I think so last year, right? The season opener, they went down and smacked the Atlanta Falcons around.
hmm
However, the Atlanta Falcons still had their way with the defense on the ground.
hmm
And that
Yeah.
was something that I remember when Aton and I were sitting here doing this post-game show. I was like, okay, not to be the Debbie Downer here, but that's concerning, right? Like that's really concerning at that point. And they started to figure it out here and there. But like you said, you were hoping that the personnel changes in the offseason and some of these like shiny new pieces, you wouldn't still see that some of this same stuff left and right. Like I know they came out with the win, but I am still very concerned about this defense. Let's get the doom and gloom out of the way to start.
Right.
I'm a
Yeah.
little concerned about the defense, and like you said, same old Gannon. I'm not really seeing much exciting change here yet.
Yeah, for the first time in a long time, the pass defense was more encouraging than the rush defense, and that hasn't been the
Yeah,
case in not in this town for a long time. Bradbury,
long
I
time.
think, had the best game on defense.
Sure.
If I had to narrow it down to one person, Bradbury was very nice, impressed coverage. Didn't see as much Jordan Davis as I would have liked to. I feel like after that
Agreed.
first drive, you kind of want to be like, all right, get the run stuffer in there, and Swift
Yeah.
continues to run for 120 plus yards. So that happened. Slay was pretty good. Chauncey Gardner Johnson minus the penalty showed off his instincts on one of the pass breakups. I like what I
Mhm.
saw from him, from a guy who's only been in this defense for like 8 days or
Right.
whatever the situation was. But I was encouraged with the pass defense, the rush defense. If it wasn't for DeAndre Swift, for two things, if it wasn't for DeAndre Swift and it wasn't for Jalen Hurts' mobility, this might have been a very different outcome.
Yeah. So let's use that to go to some of the positives then. I think that the 18 for 32 for Jalen Hurts doesn't really tell his full story of what
Status
today was.
quo. Status quo for him, passing
Yeah.
wise.
I don't think I thought he had a much better day than what you would think that tells. I don't love him throwing the ball 32 times, but again, when the Lions are putting up 400 yards, I guess you kind of need to.
Better than 40 plus. It's better than 40 plus.
I'm with you. But I think ultimately there were maybe 4 or 5 what I would call bad balls by Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
There was one that was nullified by a great AJ Brown catch, one that was nullified by a PI call, and then a couple times, those are balls that he had to throw away that instead of taking a sack or anything like that. So
one of them right at Gainwell's feet, I remember, like at his feet, and right by the goal line, and it just didn't get there. And these are some of the improvements that you were hoping, like from training camp and everything we have heard and seen. You were hoping for the improvements, especially in velocity and placement. And I'm shocked that AJ Brown, well, not really shocked, I guess I shouldn't say, but like AJ Brown was the focal point, as was the case during the summer. But him and Devontae have more of a rapport after playing together last season. And for him to get, I don't even know what the target share was, but it wasn't many for Devontae Smith. And for AJ Brown to have 13 of them, 13 targets, I guess it's no secret that he's going to be the focal point moving forward.
Right. 13 targets for AJ Brown compared to 4 for Devontae Smith. Devontae Smith did not have a catch today. Does that concern you at all?
It doesn't concern me on the offensive scheme. Like, he'll get his. It concerns me and I know they'll downplay it and the whole bit, and not to read into it too much after 1 week, but it concerns me. Like, he has to feel like some type of emotion. Like, I was the leading receiver last year, and now I'm like not being looked at as much. And meanwhile, AJ Brown is getting 13 targets. Again, it's not like the end of the world. I'm sure he'll get his this season.
Right.
But like when you see them paired up on the sidelines and you see AJ like happy and giddy, and Devontae not looking so giddy about it. So
Sure.
I'm sure it'll be fine. But like he has to like feel something like, damn, it's going to be a different show this year.
Yeah. I mean, he does have to look at it in a realistic way in some capacity. Like, you're right. AJ Brown's not going to get 13 targets a game. He's not going to have 155.
He might.
He might get, okay, you know what? Let me take that back. He might get 13 targets a game. He's probably most likely not going to have 155 yards every week.
Yeah, you gotta. I mean, somebody different is going to eat every single week the way I see it. I'm sure we're going to have games where Devontae Smith has his day, and AJ Brown has the number one corner on him and doesn't get many looks, and vice versa. It's just that today they were able to expose mismatches. Both of these corners, Okudah and the other guy I can't pronounce. I know his name, I just can't pronounce it. The other guy, the bigger one that was on AJ. Those are two corners that can be exposed. And AJ took advantage of his matchups and bailed Hurts out on a few poor throws. And I'm encouraged with that. And Smitty, a guy that has already shown that he can produce in this offense, I'm not too concerned. I just hope this doesn't lead to like him feeling like disgruntled down the road, hopefully.
Right. And I don't think it will, because I do think like, if they're winning does cure all.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. We barely got it today. So
yeah. So listen, if first week jitters, get them out a little bit.
Right.
After everything, the emotion in the stadium, they haven't sold out that stadium in years.
I had FOMO, low-key.
That was unreal how much they sold out that stadium. I do feel, though, that they deserve to lose that game solely based on those little third down posters that they handed out. That upset me in ways that I can't even explain. That was so sad. Let's see. I think that's right. Like, Detroit does have a major chip on their shoulder. Like Matthew Bush right here. That's absolutely true. Like it was going to be a tough game, but nobody thought it was going to come down to 3 points and Jalen Hurts having to get there for a quarterback sneak to seal them a victory.
Yeah.
Especially when they're up by as much as they were.
Didn't anticipate being like holding my knees in front of the TV screen on a 4th down conversion against the Lions. But like you mentioned at the beginning, they're a motivated squad. They ended the year on a high note, and they're motivated this year. And I know the hard knocks, like whatever you want to call it, like the hype they got from Hard Knocks, and everybody's looking at them differently. And I do like what Dan Campbell does. I like the energy, and I like what he provides for that team. Not the biggest Jared Goff believer. I don't know why they continue to believe in him. I guess they have no option at this point, but he showed why he was a mediocre quarterback today with some poor throws. But if it wasn't for Hurts's mobility and him rushing for, 90 yards it was on 17 carries, led the team with 17 carries.
90 yards. And
he's going to be the leading rusher this year,
out.
isn't he? He's going to be the leading rusher again, isn't he?
If Miles can stay healthy, I don't think no. Because Miles still had more rushing yards. He did.
Yeah. Well, he's always been good in the yards per
yards.
carry. He's always been among the league leaders in yards per carry.
Yeah, because he busts off one of those long ones about every game. But again, like I can't stand when people are like, well, if you take away those couple long runs, I'm like, why? That's literally the whole point. Like if he's busting out one a game, then yeah, the yards per carry is accurate. Because that's what he's giving you week in and week out. So I think there were a lot of plays. I think one of the other, the three main things that I've kind of seen as the biggest question marks or what I'm looking for this season was going to be Jalen Hurts' improvement, what we're going to see from Shane Steichen as a play caller, and what Jonathan Gannon can do in a second year with all of these legitimate pieces that he has compared to some of the, so things he had last year. And through the first half, especially, 2 out of 3 of those things two out of 3 of those, which are the coaches, I was not impressed by. And I thought that Jalen Hurts bailed out Shane Steichen a couple different times with some really terrible timed play calls.
Yeah, I was going to say 1 out of 3, I guess, isn't bad. Well, it is bad in this case.
It is bad.
It's yeah, I don't even know if you can find like solidified like points to any of those 3, because we saw some like the 54-yarder to AJ Brown was a beautiful pass, but is that a pass? Does he make that pass last year? Is he capable of making that pass last year? If he had a guy like AJ Brown, we're not so sure. I feel like Steichen had his highs and his lows. The 3rd down motion call with Dallas Goedert, I enjoyed. I think that was a creative play call, and they'll get their footing as time goes on and they figure out how to utilize all these guys on offense. But yeah, the defense, we keep coming back to Gannon. And I don't know. I had said at one point over the summer that if he doesn't succeed or exceed expectations, rather, with the personnel that he has this year, I don't know how encouraged teams are going to be around the league to hiring him as a head coach. And if I'm looking for one next year and I have just this one game to go off of, I'm not so sure. It's not it.
It's not it. I'm never, I mean, Patrick says, the Fire Gannon train's already up and running.
The first series it was running. That was it for me.
I'm never a person to jump on the fire anybody train. I don't like that. I don't like being that person. But I don't.
I love that train. I lead that train. I'm the conductor on that train.
I'm the conductor of that train. But listen, if it doesn't improve from today, they play some good teams.
They play a better offense next week. Minnesota, right? Yeah, Justin Jefferson and Kirk Cousins is a better quarterback than Jared Goff. If they get torn up like this next Monday night, at home, they're not going to be as lucky. At home, at that, they're not going to be as lucky this week, I don't think.
No, they're not going to be as lucky week in and week out with what they did today and how they played today. And if, Jared Goff being Jared Goff is one of the reasons. It didn't have anything to do with anything other than Jared Goff being himself.
He's a really poor quarterback.
Yeah.
I knew he was bad, but like just watching him today, I'm like, man, he is really just not good.
Just missing wide open guys. And I'm in my head, I'm like, why are they, we're on the opposite side. So our question is, why on God's green earth are they that open? Why are some of these guys that open? They're not talented receivers, but they're not so talented, that offense, that they should have been as wide open as they were on as many occasions as they were. Yeah. If you're going to look at on paper who should have the upper hand in those matchups, it should have been the Philadelphia Eagles defense. And I don't know if it was them, again, first game jitters, things like that, but my God, that cannot continue, or we are going to be having a problem.
There's a reason why the Eagles had 4 rushing touchdowns today. That is just an example of doing what they knew they had to do against the Detroit Lions. But I don't know if it is going to be a formula for, like you mentioned, being better teams down the road. And to your point, the secondary allowing these guys to get open, and they have a decent core. St. Brown. Right. Lions fans tell me all the time that St. Brown is better than Devontae Smith, and today did not help my argument for that. So that's another argument for another time. DJ Chark, fantastic catch. Slay played that probably as best as you could. Yeah, and DJ Chark was a free agent target that I wanted at some point last year before the AJ Brown stuff even went down. But he was a potential guy. I was looking at Hawkinson, a top 10 tight end in his own right, and this is all without top rookie Jameson Williams. Like, I shudder to think about what would have happened if his 4.4 speed, 4.3 speed was out there also. If Jared Goff didn't overthrow him as he did many times today. But yeah, Gannon in this zone look, it works for guys like Bradbury. It doesn't work for some other guys. Kaiser White, I think had a good game today. I saw him all over the field.
Yep.
What is your take on, like, are you disappointed with the lack of Jordan Davis that we saw today? I saw him here and there, but after that first series, I was like, it's time to throw him in the middle, and we didn't see him as much as I had hoped. I understand first round pick and work yourself into the offense, but with the way the summer went, I thought he was at least going to get like 30-40% of the snap count, and he didn't do that.
Yeah, I was a little disappointed because I think that's, when you're looking at all of the key additions you made, you're going to start with the guy that you traded up to draft, right? And especially when they do go right down the field and score on you the way they did, you just need to you need to change things up. You need to get him involved. And honestly, there's no better time than now to start, especially when they went up by 2 touchdowns at one point. Like, it doesn't
31-14, right? After the pick six.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt to get the big guy in there. Like, I think I get it. I get the younger guy. You want to seal the win, but I think that the best way to, get involved is to learn. And, he did show a lot of good things in preseason, and I think that you just have to get him involved. I agree with you. You would have expected at least somewhere in that like 30 to 40% range, and you just didn't really see that. And especially with, again, a defensive line that massively underperformed last year, you want to get out there and get off to a good start. And they didn't really do that today.
Yeah. It took a little while for them to get going, as was status quo last year. Fletcher Cox finally got to him after Jared Goff was like jawing with him for a little bit. Not the guy I would go after if I was Jared Goff. Not a guy twice your size like Fletcher Cox.
Did Jared Goff not see the story about what happened when someone tried to break into Fletcher Cox's home?
That's the first thing I thought about, and I was like, of all the guys on defense, like I would go after a guy like somebody smaller, like Avonte Maddox, like somebody you think you can at least physically like match up with. Like Fletcher Cox is not the guy.
Jared Goff's a tall guy, so like someone you're at least a little bit taller than.
Yeah, and he's slim. I was telling my cousin here when he was watching the game, I was like, I don't think this man has lifted one weight since he's like gotten into the NFL. Like, I don't see him bulking up. He doesn't look strong. I don't know what is going on with him.
He looks like such a goober. He's like Sam Bradford.
Half sleeves, like no drip whatsoever. Like just not a guy I want leading my team. Number 16 is not a good number. Like all of it is, the whole package is just terrible. Like I'm not a guy.
Bad number.
Not a guy I would rally behind.
All right. Another question I have for you. The penalties today.
Oh man.
What in the world are they doing?
You know what that's a product of, right? That's what happens when you have one series in the preseason. That's literally what happens. Like they could have benefited from 1, maybe 2 additional series in the preseason. Like 12 guys in the huddle, that should not happen in the regular season. No point in the regular season should. I guess AJ Brown was trying to get off the field and he just like hung out in the huddle. I don't know what the deal was there.
I don't know.
But it was bad. It looks like 10 penalties for 61 yards they had, and that's just. They led the team for a good portion of the season last year, or they led the league rather for a good portion of the season in penalties. And they're doing that. They're doing that again this year. And some of them are just dumb, like 12 men in the huddle, like just delay of games and all that stuff.
Delay of games. It wasn't even.
It's rusty. They're rusty, is what it is.
They were taking the play clock down every time, though. That was another thing that really frustrated me, especially in the first half. I think they got a delay game in the second half as well, at least one. But not only were I thought the play calls were bad, they were taking until the clock. Like there were a couple other delay of games that probably.
I was about to say there's a few times where that clock was 0 and they didn't call it,
which is not good. Why is that happening? What are they doing?
Yeah, discipline. Just reps. I think like I don't know what the play clock like scenario is in camp or whatever, but it's just lack of repetition, especially in the preseason game. They need to try and figure it out, get some cohesion. Figure it out. We saw it kind of die down a little bit in the second half, but things like that have to be cleaned up, especially like you had mentioned prior. When you play better offenses, you got Minnesota, you got Dallas in week 3, you got all, and I know that's probably like the hardest stretch of the schedule right there because we do have a pretty decent schedule. But the Vikings make you pay, and if you commit that many penalties against them next Monday night, they're not going to have a quarterback that is still mediocre in my eyes, but not as putrid as Jared Goff is.
Yeah, no, definitely. They're different levels of mediocrity. But so one of the things that we like to do, if anybody new is joining us this season and hasn't been on with us last year or anything like that, We take to Twitter. We use 3 words to describe how you're feeling after the Eagles win or loss, whatever it may be that week. And then we have Rachel jump in with us. So whenever she's been monitoring Twitter for the last 20 minutes while we've been doing this. So I'm really interested to hear from her to know because most of the time they're not very positive. Usually they even on wins, they're not positive, and it's always fire somebody. Someone is always in the hot seat. Someone's always getting yelled at. And then naturally you get a couple here and there that are, Jalen Hurts sucks, trade Jalen Hurts. And
there's a lot of that going around.
That's always. I expect nothing less, even though without Jalen Hurts today, who knows where the hell
we don't win that game without him bailing out multiple. There's 3-4 instances off the top of my head where Jalen Hurts' legs bailed out the offense. Multiple times. If you have Jared Goff on this offense, that does not happen.
Someone I did see, I think it might have been NBC Sports Philadelphia, though, that tweeted that someone should get a penalty for letting Jared Goff scramble for a first down.
Yeah, Maddox, what are you doing, Maddox? I don't know how you get beat on. He's a nickel corner. He's not like trained to like contain scrambling quarterbacks. But if you, but come on, man. Not a good look. Not a good look.
All right, Rachel, how bad is it?
I mean, quick temperature check. You guys are already touching on most of the stuff, but everybody is talking about Gannon right now.
Yeah, get his ass out.
Get his ass. Everybody can fire him. Somebody said Gannon's on trial. Like, somebody did say thank you, Hurts. That was kind of positive. That's probably
so kind.
Somebody told me today that they can't do Hurts anymore, and I was like, it's week 1. I get it. 20th start, mind you. 20th.
They're being haters. Some people are really just Jalen Hurts haters. It is what it is. But,
we could have a whole episode on just Jalen Hurts hate.
The Jalen Hurts haters. That's the whole show. But yeah, a lot of fire Jonathan Gannon. I hate Gannon. For the most part. Somebody said Smitty Ware. Like, we didn't really see too much. You guys already touched on
I'm worried. I'm worried, low key. I'm worried a little bit.
Only week 1, so maybe it'll get better. But
my betting slips are worried. Actually, my betting slips are more worried.
It should be. I saw you tweeted something out, and I was like, "Dang, that sucks."
Can't win them all, man. What are you gonna do?
Yeah, can't win them all. But happy and humble. Somebody said that as well. So it's kind of mixed. Everybody's downing Gannon as expected, rightfully so. But there are some positives in there as well.
I'm looking at one right now that says need a QB. Like,
yeah,
out of your
I got those after the first series. That was it.
I don't understand how you look at that game and your first thought is we need a quarterback.
Well, people saw that AJ Brown catch and they were like, "Hey, that's a touchdown if he leads them a little bit." And I get it. But listen, man, the man is literally 24, 5 years younger than me, mind you. 5 years, like, think about it. Like, I don't know y'all ages, but 5 years younger than me. I'll be 29 in November, and this man is 24. I couldn't contemplate my life at 24, let alone NFL defenses. And people want this man to carve up NFL complex defensive schemes. Yeah. 24, 20th start. I'm going to say it until the end of time. 20th start. What do you want from this man?
I have said that so many times. Think about where you were at the age of 24 and the job you had at the age of 24. Were you the best?
Sandwiches. It's making myself sandwiches. Probably.
Literally trying to figure it out. Ain't no way.
Were you the best person at your job? No. You were probably one of the worst. I was one of the worst. Like,
yes.
I don't. It takes a little bit of time,
I get so much flack these days, and Jess, you know, because we've been doing this long enough. So I during the even like, and I don't mean to bring him up, but like during the Wentz like thing and all this, like I am a patient and optimistic person. If somebody leads me to believe that they can do something, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. Agreed. When Wentz was atrocious for that whole year, I was like, I'd bring him back as long, get it together. I'd bring him back. I want to see what he can do. And then that ended the way it did. Ben Simmons, I was like, if he apologizes, I will happily take him. That's it.
Me too.
I know you guys probably. It is what it is because Rachel's looking at me like you might be by yourself now.
I'm buried. Those hills, I'm actually buried 6 feet under. I'm coming to you from the afterlife. I'm buried 6 feet deep.
I was like, I'll do it. People make mistakes. I mean, he probably shouldn't have went about it the way he did, but come back, apologize. I want to win the championship. I'm all in. I'm all about it. That's all I need. And Hurts is the same thing. He's shown flashes, and he's 24 years old. Why should I write him off at 24 years old? And now he has a number one receiver that he can depend on. Probably depends on a little too much, but he depends on him. You got Goddard, you got Smith, you got figure out. Miles is here. He's hungry, healthy for now, and I'm not ready to write guys off after 1 year. 1 year. I don't know how people come to come to complex like conclusions after you watch the guy play for 20 NFL games. How do you? He's done. He's cooked. He can't do it. I don't understand it personally. I don't.
And the refusal to look at the whole picture of all of those things as well. I mean, think about what he was thrown into for his first 4 games of his NFL career.
All that nonsense.
Yeah, all of that. And then think about, last year, the offensive line situation that was going on. I think it wasn't until week 10 or 11 that they finally started having a week in, week out consistent offensive line. We went back and looked at it last year. I think at one point they had he had played, 15 games with 13 different offensive line.
They had 13 rotations with 14 different offensive linemen last year. And as a 23-year-old quarterback, what you going to do with that? And he went to the playoffs. I know we played Jake Fromm and Garrett Gilbert and all these guys, but he took his team to the playoffs. And you started the year 2-5 after that Derek Carr game when he carved us up for 90% completion and Miles got hurt and we were 2-5. And I was like,
but they forget all that.
And I was like, man, Kenny Pickett might be the move.
His tiny hands.
And I can't. And tiny hands, 5, whatever it is. I have. Yeah, I don't get it, but it is. I liked what I saw from Hurts today. And if it wasn't for his legs, like we've said ad nauseum to this point, the Eagles don't win this game. 90 yards. I don't care if he's a leading rusher. I don't care if he runs it 15 times. But I will say this: why did it take for the 6th time for Jalen Hurts to get knocked in the head after a slide for them to call it? Because all game long he was getting blasted. I don't mean just a tap, bam, shoulder. And the one time he stayed on the ground for extended amount of time is when they're like, all right, I guess I gotta throw it. But
yeah, I think his style of play is sustainable, but not if he gets hit like that.
Yeah, he's susceptible to them hits, man. It's sustainable if you. I don't know if I want to see him running 17 times like he did today. I'm cool with 8.
I don't need him I don't like him having to bail out play calls all the time. I think that's
hey man, when you get blitz, you got no option. You got blitz and you have 0.4 seconds to make a decision. You got to run your ass off. That's the only choice.
Right. But when he gives himself up like that, I don't expect him to be landed on.
He's sliding though. He is sliding. Exactly. He has to slide. What are you going to do? Dive head first like Wentz style? No, you're going to slide and hope to God that people are going to gun for him though. He's frustrating to play against. People as sad as it is, people are going to gun for him and try to take him out the game.
And he's still unfazed after it happens every single time. We saw in the preseason.
He's a better man than me.
He's
better man
than
me. No, Zach Pascal in there. Pascal's about to.
He was ready for it.
He was. I want to know how Jalen Hurts keeps himself as calm as he does day in and day out, because I need some of that.
Unbothered, bro. Just unbothered. Just the way people talk about him and the things people say about him, he just goes out. And even when they score, he gets sacked, throws a pick, a good play. I've never seen
the same
emotion, just stone faced. This is how it is. But he is a PR major, so he was taught to be like that. So
okay.
That's
a reason. There's a reason why he navigates press conferences. And remember the clip where they asked AJ something and he put his hand over the mic. He's a PR major. He's not gonna slip up. He's too smart. He's not gonna do that.
I think more athletes should do that.
Yeah, Jalen's too smart for that. There's a reason why he doesn't entertain none of the nonsense. He don't entertain none of that. He was taught that in school.
That's so smart.
Mm-hmm.
It is.
I didn't know that. That's a new fun fact I learned today, and I really enjoy that.
AJ Brown did not major in PR, so
you don't say.
Clearly by his Twitter presence.
You don't say. Honestly, though, I can't imagine what it would have been like had Twitter been around when T.O. was an Eagle and T.O. was in his prime.
His driveway just.
Yes, that was his Twitter, his driveway.
Or even prime Allen Iverson days when he was telling Larry Brown to go F himself like that. Yeah. That could have been a whole nother.
TGI Fridays on City Ave with a bunch of strippers. Social
those were the good days. Those were the good days, man. I miss those days.
If only we had it.
He's the only reason that TGI Fridays is still in business.
Yeah. And Reebok's still paying him too. Reebok pays him too.
It's the worst one the chain has to offer, but that's why it's still in business. But we haven't had a receiver here since T.O. that has that confidence that borders on arrogance, but is so warranted and it's enjoyable. The arrogance is enjoyable because he's wearing our team's jersey. Mm-hmm. Playing against him is the worst thing in the world, but that we haven't had that in so long. And I'm so happy about it. And I'm so happy that today was just the perfect thing to watch it start to blossom throughout the season. And I can't wait to watch that unfold from the non-PR major.
Yeah. There is a part of me over the summer that was like, because I'm always weary of like boom and bust candidates. Like he can't be like, he's not like that good. Like he's good, but like is he going to be that good in an Eagles uniform? Because it just doesn't work out here.
Doesn't always
And
happen.
like he makes professional football look so effortless. Like the catches he makes and the way he just shed tacklers. And like today abolished all those notions I had all summer long when I was just like, what if he's just like not as good here? Like what if that just happens? Like it's just sometimes you pay people and they just don't amount to as much success with their new team. And I was foolish for thinking that, obviously, after today. So
listen, Deshaun did try to do that with the comment. Deshaun actually he was, but he was a different kind of receiver. You know what I mean? Like he had.
But he wasn't like an alpha, like number one. He wasn't like a true alpha, like prime number one. Like he was a number one in a different way.
Yeah, totally agree. But I really do think that. Do you remember just the last couple years, the drops have been so bad, and you would sit and watch Red Zone, or you would watch they would bring out the top 10 of the day, and you'd watch these insane catches, and you'd be like, wow, this is so fun to watch.
I would kill for a guy like that.
I would kill for a guy like that, and I would kill for anybody wearing an Eagles jersey to just make a routine catch that doesn't look like that, but just still catch the ball. Now we have a guy that does both.
It was surreal for me to see over the summer, like PFF graphics and all this, and see like top 10 wide receiver duos and like top 5 receivers with AJ Brown and these guys wearing like Eagles colors. And I was like, man, I literally used to pray for times like this. Like I literally, there was times where I was like, yo, I would kill for like a receiver. And Smitty showed that last year. Right. And I was like, man, DJ Chark would be a nice addition, big bodied, all this. I was looking, Calvin Ridley before all that stuff happened, Allen Robinson, who the Eagles were in talks with before AJ happened. And you get the prototypical, like if you built a prototypical counterpart to Devontae Smith from the ground up, piece by piece, it's AJ Brown. Mm-hmm. And I hope it doesn't I hope they can like coexist. I just pray that they can down the road.
I think they will.
We just need.
Yeah, you're a lot less worried than I am. I didn't like seeing Smitty on the sidelines, just like, hey man, I didn't get looked at today, and I was like,
I cannot. I have learned nothing as an Eagles fan if I haven't learned that I will take the wins when I get them.
Yeah,
I will.
We almost didn't get it. We almost didn't get it today. So
right. So we got it. I will enjoy it, and I will not be doom and gloom until it's absolutely necessary.
I have a confession.
Please go ahead.
So I had a betting slip today. Where every leg hit was like 10 to win, $100, and it was 4 legs for like different props throughout the games. And the final leg was DeAndre Swift, 25 rushing yards, right? So they're down by it's 38-28, and the like Lions are driving, and DeAndre Swift is sitting at 24 yards. And I'm sitting here like, yo, DeAndre Swift needs 1 more yard, but like I kind of like need the Eagles to win too. Like, what do I do with this? And the only reason I picked Swift was because he's a good receiving back, and I was like, 25 yards isn't bad. He got the yard though. So okay. 2 wins today. 2 wins today for me.
There you go.
You know what?
I was rooting for the other team. Semi like Swift. I'd be nice to get like a yard here. That'd be cool.
1 yard is fine. It's just a matter of
right. And then when they scored, my buddies are looking at me like, you put this energy in there. I was like, I asked for a yard. I didn't ask for a touchdown. I have 1 yard.
Careful. Yeah.
Oh, all right. So do you have good vibes going into next week or no?
You have to, yeah. You have to assume they'll learn from their mistakes. Week 1 is always just a litmus test for what it's going to be moving forward. From what I remember, the Eagles didn't like light it on fire in the first half of the Atlanta game last year, I don't think, and they kind of pulled away in the second game. Part of me is like, it's really same old Gannon. Like he's still playing off coverage. I know zone is his whole concept, but you kind of need to like press at times to get these guys off the line of scrimmage. I don't like the conservative approach they took down the road of this game, but I'm encouraged that as players settle in, players like Hassan Reddick, who we didn't hear a whole lot of today, and guys like that. I know Fletcher got hurt on that sack, figures, and Derek Barnett was limping off the field and things like that. But I think Gannon will figure it out, because if last year was any inclination, Gannon gets better as the year goes on, because he had a much better second half of the 2020 season than the first half. But he has the personnel this year, and if he wants that head coaching gig, he needs to tighten up, man. Tighten up. What is happening out here?
Yeah. I think I don't have a great taste in my mouth left from the defense, but I was
I have a
encouraged
neutral
by.
taste. It's like when you eat rice cakes. You have rice cakes, and you're like, that wasn't terrible, but it wasn't great. Like,
Yeah,
that's where I'm.
It wasn't
at.
terrible, but like I'm not as hungry as I was a couple minutes ago.
It was
so-
a filler. It was a filler.
Yeah, exactly.
It filled my football void, so that was fine. But
Yeah, and now we can go watch some more football. But we'll wrap it up from here now that we've exercised, I think, everything we can out of the last 60 minutes of football that we've watched. Thank you guys
there's one
so
more.
much for.
There's one more. Did you miss live tweeting during the Eagles game or no? Did you miss like the live Twitter feed during the Eagles game? Because live Twitter gets wild during the Eagles games, and Fire Gannon was firing it off 5 minutes in. And my first Bleach tweet, by the way, was like 5 minutes into the game. A lot of Bleach.
I saw it. It was literally they went right down the field and scored, and I opened Twitter, and the first tweet at the top was you. What's the best flavor of bleach? And
I didn't think it was happening week 1. But
I was like, oh, we're starting early this year.
Yeah, man, pour it up on the rocks, please.
Have you found out what let me know when you figure out what the best flavor is. I'm sure
lemon's kind of the way to go these days. But as I mature into other flavors, and I used to like mix it. I just drink it straight now because it's too painful.
Yeah, sometimes it's necessary. The best flavor.
It was necessary in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I mean, I needed all of the beverages, and I have to,
And you're a parent now, so you can't like go ham. You got to be like, I still have to like take care of a child after this.
I have to take care of a child, and like I can only drink so much. Otherwise, like I'm gonna get the child drunk next time I breastfeed her. So like have to make sure that I don't do that. So
yeah, man.
I have to. I have to figure out what my threshold is for when the Eagles really get to like this level. This is when I start drinking.
We'll find out week 3 in Dallas, then we'll find that out.
Sweet Lord, that. Week 1, you're right about week 1 being a litmus test. I think once we get to week 3 and see what happens with that Dallas game, that's going to be the true test.
That was one of my those are my like 3 like goals for this season. It was beat Dallas, win the division, and win a playoff game. Those are my things. But if you don't beat Dallas, if you can't beat Dallas this year, you ain't going anywhere. You have to beat Dallas.
Agreed. I think it's all very doable because they did not get
it's doable if we get a new defensive coordinator by week 3. Then it's very doable.
Jesus. All right. You know what? That's it. We're cutting the show off with that right there. We're cutting it off. We're done. And thank you for the congratulations as well on being a parent. My child apparently needs socks. Her feet are cold. So thank you for coming and hanging out with us today. Thank you everybody for jumping into the chat here. We will be back next week after the game, late Monday night. Hopefully it's a win because otherwise that is we'll just be doom and gloom together. But I'm feeling
doom and gloom at midnight. Who wants to do that?
You know what? It actually it's very therapeutic to get it out. So, if they win, it's a lot of fun. If they lose, it feels good to yell with us. So regardless, come and join us. Definitely. I'm glad the Giants are already losing. Hopefully they continue losing. Yeah.
Daniel Dimes.
Yeah.
Or pennies.
Commanders won though.
Yeah. Wentz was dealing.
Yeah. 4 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. He was only sacked
back-to-back picks. He had back-to-back picks. They were bad.
Jesus. Make sure you're following everywhere on BGN Radio. Subscribe wherever you are. Hit that thumbs up button. We'd love to hear from you. And make sure you're paying attention to everything we've got going on this week. We've got so much content coming out. So thank you for coming to hang out with us post-game. For myself, Victor, Rachel, the BGN Radio Instant Reaction Show. Go Birds, and we'll talk to you next week.